Hi readers, Mrs. Malstadt here. Welcome back. Thanks for joining me. Last time we read together, we got to read and learn about emperor penguins, the Antarctic diving birds, and we went through and looked at the text features like the photographs and the captions, and we also got to ask and answer some questions as we were reading to help us understand the text. Today, I want to teach you another really great way to understand nonfiction or informational texts. Sometimes new information can be tricky, but one way that we can better understand what we read is to think about the main idea. That's the big idea that the author is trying to teach us. Sometimes we'll have a big idea for one page, but a lot of times in informational or nonfiction texts, that main idea or big idea will be paragraph by paragraph. When we figure out the main idea, it'll tie all of the details together so that we can better understand what we read. So the strategy I want to teach you today is called boxes and bullets. So when we think about the main idea and the details, we think about the main idea being the big box, that big idea, and then the details are the ideas that support the main idea. So we want to think, what's the one big thing this section teaches? And how do the details connect to the big idea? So when we try this together, we're going to start by saying back the information you just read. Next, we can check, does that sentence support other information on the page? Does it connect back to that big idea? Yes or no? And then we can check, is that information the main idea or a detail? So that main idea is that big idea that we're learning. So we're going to take a look at our book on emperor penguins, and I want to show you how to do this. We're going to go to page 5 right here. And so on this page, we saw that the author was teaching us about the bird's traits. So let me read this to you. And as we're reading, think to yourself, what is the author trying to teach me? And is the information that big idea or that detail? So it says, all birds share certain traits. Birds are vertebrates, animals with backbones. Birds are covered with feathers. They have 2 wings and a beak. Birds are warm-blooded. Their bodies keep a steady temperature regardless of the surrounding temperature. Birds lay hard-shelled eggs. The emperor penguin shares these traits with other birds. It also has traits that make it unique. So I'm going to start with saying back the information that I just read. Okay, so the author started off by teaching us that all birds share certain traits. So when I think about traits, I'm thinking about like characteristics, maybe features of their body or the way that their body moves. And so they talk about all birds are vertebrates. They all have backbones. All birds are covered with feathers. All birds have 2 wings, and all birds have a beak. Okay, so right now they're teaching us that all birds have these certain traits. So far I'm thinking maybe one of the big ideas that the author wants us to know is that all birds share these traits, these characteristics. And then I think about the details that they all have they all have backbones, they all have feathers, they all have wings, they all have a beak. Those are all details that tie back to what those different traits are. They explain the traits specifically. Let's see what else they teach us. Birds are warm-blooded. Their bodies keep a steady temperature regardless of the surrounding temperature. Okay, so that's another trait. Birds are warm-blooded. And then when they talk about the steady temperature, that's just an extra detail to explain to us as the reader what warm-blooded means. They also say that birds lay hard-shelled eggs. So that's another detail that talks about how birds have certain traits. All birds lay eggs. And then it says another detail the emperor penguin shares these traits with other birds. It also has traits that make it unique. Okay, so when I think about the sentences that support the idea, that the big idea that the author is trying to teach us is that all birds have certain traits, I look at all of the sentences that talk specifically about the traits. Those are the details. Again, backbones, feathers, wings, beaks, they're warm-blooded, they lay hard-shelled eggs. The last sentence, it also has traits that make it unique, is telling us, the reader, that although the emperor penguin has the same traits or characteristics as other birds, that they're also unique. So I think the author is setting us up for the next idea, possibly on the next page, to tell us what makes them different. But right now, they're showing us all the things that make them the same. So let's go back, and I want to show you how you can write this information out as boxes and bullets, and that really helps organize your thoughts. You might eventually see this as a strategy in writing too, so this is a really great connection. Okay, so my big idea, I'm just going to write page 5 here so I know which page we're talking about. So my big idea on page 5, what was the big thing that the author was trying to teach us again? All birds share certain traits or characteristics. So a lot of times, the strategy goes where we just have 3 bullet points, but when I think about all of the details of the different traits that the author taught us, I think we should probably do 1 bullet point for each. So do you remember what the first one was? They all have backbones. So what's another trait that all birds share? They all have wings. They all have, and I'm going to actually say 2 wings because they specify that. I'm going to see they all have beaks. Okay, let's go back and read. What else? What else do all birds have? Oh, they're covered with feathers. I forgot that one. Good thing I looked back at the text. And that's a great strategy too, to look back at that text. Okay, what else? What else? They're warm-blooded. That's another trait that all birds have. And they lay hard-shelled eggs. Okay, so let me go back and write those too. So I wrote feathers already. So I need that they're warm-blooded and they lay hard-shelled eggs. So readers, let's check. So what was the one thing that this big section taught us? That one paragraph, that big idea that they wanted us to know was that all birds share certain characteristics. So let's see how the details connect to that big idea. So backbones, is that a trait that all birds share? Check. Wings, having 2 wings, is that a trait that all birds share? Yep. Do all birds have beaks? Yep. Do all birds have feathers? Yep, that too. Are all birds warm-blooded? Mm-hmm. And do all birds lay hard-shelled eggs? Yes. So these are all of the details that connect back to that big idea. So readers, as you go off today to do your reading, I invite you to try this strategy of boxes and bullets, thinking about what's the big thing that that section teaches and how do those ideas connect back. Saying back the info you read is helpful. Checking, does that sentence support the information on the page? And then thinking, is that a main idea, the big idea they want us to learn, or are those details that support it? And as you go off to your nonfiction reading today, as you try that strategy, that's going to help you understand what you're reading even better. Happy reading.